in brightest day, in blackest night. All other podcasts tremble in fright. Losers cower before the power. Oranges lust and blues you can trust. Indigos feel and white ones heal. Yellow scare and green ones dare. That sapphire love and black hands glove will rock your foundation without hesitation.
Have you come to destroy me, Obi-Wan?
I will do what I must.
Then you will die.
Chad and Mars face evil's might. Respect their power, for they'll make you see the light.
Hello there, I'm Mark Marble.
And I'm Ryan Daly.
And this is the LanternCast.
Episode 483.
Otherwise known as Obi-Wan the post-mortem, since we did Obi-Wan the preview.
Yep.
So, this certainly was an interesting series to watch from beginning to end, because it was like a roller coaster.
Uh-huh.
These were my initial thoughts before I turn it over to you, because the first two episodes were okay. They weren't thrilling, but they were okay, and there were some things in it I liked. We already knew that they were going to do the broken down, hard on his luck, super depressed, super feeling guilty, super useless Obi-Wan Kenobi, which, again, I'm not a fan of, and I don't think they didn't need to deconstruct him as much as they did, but we knew going in they were going to do that.
Episode 1 was pretty much what we expected it to be.
Yes, there wasn't a whole lot going on. It just was the call to action, if you will.
Yeah.
And episode 2 ended well with the big reveal to him that Vader / Anakin was still alive, which was handled really well.
Yep.
Other than it being Reva, and we'll talk. I'm sure we'll talk about Reva. Episode 3 was my absolute least favorite, because we didn't need. I mean, I know some people out there, the Anakin apologists, Vader lovers, Obi-Wan haters, would probably love to see Obi-Wan getting beaten pillar to post, but that was such a horrible representation of Obi-Wan, kind of doing like the Captain Jack Sparrow version. Like, it's like, well, I'll fight so I can run away.
Right.
That's like, nah. But I thought it picked up a little more steam in episode 4 and 5. You started, because the whole point of deconstruction is because when you get to the point where everything's put back together again, it's kind of like a fist pump moment.
Yes.
And we do get that. I mean, you get a little bit of an episode 4, because you can see he's starting to get his groove back when his first concern when he gets out of the back to tank is where's Leia, and he has to go get her. And it's kind of cool seeing him look around. Like pseudo Death Star like hallways.
Yep.
We know that knowledge will come in handy in like 9 years. But that was cool. And episode 5, training montage. Not the training montage. I got Rocky on the brain. So there's a reference. That's why I think it's on my brain. The sparring session, if you will, before Attack of the Clones. And
yeah.
Just the way that echoes into the way the episode plays out, with Obi-Wan knowing what Anakin's going to do and how he's going to screw it up.
Yep.
But I think episode 6. This is the funny thing about episode 6. If you left out all the Reva parts, episode 6 gave you so much of what you wanted in the series. And it really did. I think Jim said it well. He said that the end of episode 6 is where we were left. It's exactly where he wanted the series to begin. Which you really can't, but I understand what he means. It's like they give us so much good stuff. And we'll talk. I want to let you talk. So I'll go into specifics about things moments that I liked in general. But episode 6 pulled it together so well overall. And even the parts that were making me cringe as I was watching it, it still didn't turn out that bad. Mm-hmm. They didn't break canon enough where like the rumors were that it was going to be just so hard to just. But when I was watching, it was making me very nervous. Every time they cut away from the Obi-Wan Vader stuff, it was like, oh God, I really don't want to. I do want to see the Owen and Beru. That was cool, giving Beru finally something to do. But the reality is it made me really nervous. But the way it wrapped up was pretty good. But still, it gives you a good like Benioff and Weiss should be forced to watch this episode, like on loop, like for like 2 days in a row, just because even though again it wasn't a perfect final episode, but it shows you that hey, if you end something really well, it's a good deodorant for anything else, as opposed to the opposite. You know, you give somebody a horrible ending, and hey, you just killed the biggest thing in pop culture, like in an episode and a half. Congratulations, even Kathleen Kennedy hasn't accomplished that so far. But yeah, but I thought the ending was good enough where it did offset a lot, not all, but a lot of the flaws in the structure of the show. And we'll go into details, but I want to let you voice your general opinions or thoughts.
Yeah, I mostly agree with with your assessment, although we differ. Our opinions differ on episode 3 and the execution of that. But overall, I mean, I'm trying to remember exactly how I phrased it when we spoke a couple of weeks ago before the series began when we were doing our preview. But I kind of mentioned at the onset that this was a type of show that just by its very nature is inessential. You know, like we didn't need this. This story wasn't filling in any gaps. It wasn't fixing any broken plot holes or things like of that nature and everything. It was just filler and fan service, really, by default. That's all it was. And because of that, I think there was a little bit of a low ceiling. Like, the show could only be so good. And I think that's evident because of the last episode, which is very enjoyable. But at the same time, we kind of know what's going to happen when Obi-Wan and Vader are fighting. And we kind of know what's going to happen with Reva chasing Luke. I mean, like, obviously, like, most of those characters, their fates are predetermined by us fans. So there's not going to be a lot of suspense and a lot of like surprises going on there. They still managed to make it pretty compelling, and credit to them. And again, that goes back to some of just the fan service elements. But I think the show was limited in how well it could be. Like, it had a cap, but the best elements of the show brought it pretty close to that cap. And there were certain things about the show that surprised me in how much I liked them. In particular, the whole Princess Leia subplot, which I was kind of banging my head thinking, I don't know how this can work. And somehow I was like, I actually really, really like that part of the show. But big picture, like, this was the thing that my first general thought after I watched the 6th episode. And I'm wondering what you think about this, because of the way you acknowledge that there were some ups and downs and there were some lulls and there were problems with it. This story was originally conceived to be a 2-hour movie and not a 6-hour miniseries. I think it should have been a 2-hour movie.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
There was enough. There's enough in this, considering we never really had a super long episode, despite the rumors that the last episode was going to be like an hour and a half. It was only 52 minutes.
Yeah.
That we never had a really long episode of the show, and there still wasn't. There were some episodes that had a tremendous amount of at least what could be perceived as filler. So yes, I think a 2.5 hour movie, you could have gotten all the really important stuff in this movie, right. And you could have done it probably in a better way.
Right. I think a lot of the extraneous characters, like the Kumail Nanjiani character, there were a lot of extra characters in like parts of the show where I was just like, why are you here? Like, the whole thing, like with the rebels and the resistance, like, or the rebels like flying in their ship and everything, like, even the Inquisitors, like, if you took the Inquisitors and Reva and that whole subplot out of the story, like, you can still tell this story without them. Just have one kind of like gung-ho ISB agent who just has this idea that, yeah, we're going to hire some mercenaries to kidnap Princess Leia, see if we can smoke out this Jedi, and like leave it at that. And then Darth Vader like kind of takes over, and it's just the Obi-Wan Darth Vader chase type of thing like that without the Reva subplot. Now we'll come back to Reva, but I was like, yeah, like, I don't know, like, I think this could have been a much tighter, much more successful 2.5 hour movie, because there was a lot of fat on this series that could have been trimmed. Not unlike the meat that, like Obi-Wan was cutting on Tatooine and that weird sand whale thing that he stuffed. He stole the meat and put it in his shirt.
The little pouch for his Eopie.
Yeah.
At least he's taking care of his animal. I agree. I think the Reva. I agree with you. You could very easily have reconfigured the story without the Inquisitors at all. But if you wanted the Inquisitors in this, it made sense to give us a character like Reva, because even though in theory a character like Reva should have been expendable, I'm sure it was and the rumor was that she was going to die, but I'm sure this was some agenda-driven stuff that probably kept her alive, so we can use her again, and we just had everybody try to rally around her before the show even began. We can't kill her. Mm-hmm. But a character like Reva could serve a purpose, because technically speaking, she had information. She knew information that both sides didn't want the other side to know, which is fine for drive the plot forwards. But then eventually, because she has all this information, and it's almost inevitable at one point this information is going to get shared one way or the other, even though in all honesty, I don't know how relevant it would really be. If the galaxy at large found out that Darth Vader used to be Anakin Skywalker, I really don't know how earth-shatteringly how that would change a whole lot. I don't at this. I mean, the people. The name would probably resonate with some people still, but I don't know if that would all of a sudden like rally all these systems against the Empire that were. I don't. But either way, but still, she had knowledge. So go ahead.
Yeah, I guess like the only thing is like if it was that public information, somebody probably would have told Luke while he was in the rebellion. I guess maybe like. Yeah. Oh
yeah. At that point, you're right. It would have ramifications down the road for as we got into 4, 5, and 6. Yes, there's no doubt about that. Just like if she told Vader that he had a son,
right?
Even if she didn't tell him where, that the reality is, that could change the whole focal point. Right. But it's just so Reva's. The way they wrote Reva didn't do Moses Ingram any favors. It didn't do any defenders of people who all automatically want to rally around her because they think in some instances it was probably true that people attacked her personally and attacked her racially and all stuff that's garbage, and we all know that's garbage. But it doesn't insulate the character from being able to be criticized. Yeah. And that character was. We know she wasn't supposed to be likable because until episode 5, which is way too long to give her any kind of warmth and backstory, even though we all suspected she was the kid in Temple, but the reality is it wasn't confirmed. Well,
yeah, that's the problem. Like, I mean, by the end of it, like by the end of episode 6, I'm like, this was an interesting character with an interesting character arc, and I kind of want to see this character go forward if there is some sort of redemption arc. Like, I'm interested in Reva's story from this point, but the execution and the lead up throughout the first half of the series was just very clumsy, because at first in episode 1, I was instantly intrigued by this character. And part of it is just because she was doing something that I've wanted to see and I didn't get a lot, which is like, okay, we're constantly told that the dark side of the Force users are driven by passion, emotion, anger, like rage, all of these like other emotions, whereas you see the Jedi of the Old Republic suppress their emotions and they're all pretty stiff and robotic. So I want to see the Darksiders acting more volatile, more emotional, more like Kylo Ren does in the sequel trilogy. But most Darksiders that we see sound robotic like Darth Vader or the High Inquisitor. And I'm just kind of like, this type of Darksider is kind of boring to me because they act the same as the Jedi. They just have different colored schemes. So when Reva comes in and she's kind of lashing out and she's got like this feral kind of energy, like this jungle cat, I'm like, I'm digging this. But then you get to the point where it's like, okay, but I don't understand. Like, why is she different? What is she coming from? Like the whole ambition thing. Like, if she's acting like this, they ought to know she's gonna try and stab you. like that was the thing. Like, all of these, like the Inquisitors should always be on guard that they're gonna be stabbed. And I did not like how the High Inquisitor was stabbed and then came back and then she got the same treatment. But so when it was revealed at the end that, yeah, this was her whole plan, that she was just luring Darth Vader so that she could take him out, I'm like, that's really cool, but really clumsily like written and set up. Like, there had to be another opportunity to get closer. She was on the Star Destroyer, like right behind him. Like, she couldn't have tried to go for his head at that point. Like, why did she have to wait till he was on the planet? And then when she did actually attack him in episode 5, that was just, it was telegraphed so lazily, like just the bad editing, bad direction in that one. I was not happy at how, when she actually revealed to him that the betrayal that we all knew was coming now because Obi-Wan exposed it. I didn't like how they showed that. And the fact that, like, Darth Vader let her live because plot reasons was just really poorly written. Like, so I was like, I was with her on the side, I was defending her, but then I was kind of confused by her motivation. And then I was like, okay, she's leading it. She's got her own agenda where she's going to try and kill Vader. This is really cool. But, oh, that's how you're going to do it? That was really stupid. And now I don't trust you. And, okay, why are you alive? Just because we need you? And then she's going after Luke. Why? She's going to try and kill him just to inflict pain on Vader, but she can't do it because, okay, so like the up and down, like I just think her character was mismanaged from the writing standpoint. And again, this isn't against Moses Ingram. I think you're right. The actress was fine. She's great. And by the end of it, sort of like by where we are in season 6, and like, or by episode 6, like, is there more for this character to do? I'll follow it. I'll see where she goes from here. But yeah, I kind of like, there were times when I was defending her and I didn't know if I could defend her, but there were other times when it's just a tough character that I don't think was serviced well by the writing, but has definite potential going forward.
I think episodes 5 and 6, you got the overall, her character was a little better because once you started understanding it, but they also didn't do the character any favors by on the surface by raying her. So because she was always always able to be smarter than everybody else on the surface,
right,
and figure out what was going on. And only she could uncover the idea that, hey, Bail Organa and Obi-Wan Kenobi have this relationship. So, maybe if we do something to Bail Organa, that will drive Obi-Wan out and things like that. It's like Anakin couldn't have figured that out or tried that. So I think they did humanize her at the end, and the scene at the end with her and Obi-Wan was cool. That worked. That certainly resonated. That worked.
Mm-hmm.
And I like the scene with Obi-Wan and her, through the blast door there. I think which was also part of Obi-Wan getting his groove back, because Obi-Wan's just reading her like a book, and it's like, it's like get out of my head, Obi-Wan. And it also does explain partially why she's so obsessed with finding Obi-Wan, because again, in her mind, she blames Obi-Wan for the whole Anakin thing, though, of course. Well, I had to laugh when she said, like where were you when Anakin was like slaughtering everybody at the temple? It's like, me and my dinosaur were getting shot at by clone troopers, if you want to know the truth. And then I beat the living shit out of him. He just happened to live. But it's okay. Just dump it all on me. But I think that when you look at some of this, the real problem, trying to get close, the keep your friends close but your enemies closer concept is great. But the problem is, much like Vader, we know she's done a bunch of horrible things.
Sure. And like, in order to get to that level, to get that close,
she's killing other Jedi. She could be killing, maybe not kids, but she's killing, certainly. Like the age of the Jedi that shows up in the first episode.
Yeah, the one that's left hanging in the middle of Anchorhead Town Square.
So that she's done a lot of bad things.
Right.
And again, it's like, as Natasha would say, is there possible for her to get that much red out of her ledger if she kills? And at least with Vader, you have to give credit where credit's due. He's doing horrible things, but he's completely committed to it and he believes in it. Arguably, she's not even fully committed to it, and she's doing it because she's trying to achieve a greater good. But does that really make her any better than Vader? At least Vader's being true to himself when he's doing this stuff. And while she's like, I don't know. Plus, it's like, why would she in a million years not think that he would be able to read her at least enough? I mean, we know he's not perfect, and that's why it was kind of cool in the series. You got both sides, which is also a problem, because the more badass you make Vader, which is fine for me because I never believed he was redeemable anyway, but the more badass and horrible things that you see him do in the course of all this filler between episodes 3 and 4, it just reinforces that this character was really never redeemable, but nonetheless, that they did not do her any favors with making her all seemingly knowing all, being able to do all. Though of course that blows up by episode 5 because you realize, well, at least from the Vader perspective, he kind of was just using her. But you're right. He never would have let her live. It makes no sense for her to let her live.
I wonder if instead of I think part of the clumsiness was just like forcing her to have her own little subplot and her own story arc in this show. Would it have been better to just give her own show from the beginning, just make a show about the Inquisitors and have her be the protagonist, sort of like infiltrating this with her own agenda, or save her and her storyline for season 2 of Obi-Wan? I don't know. I don't know. Yeah. So.
But either one of those suggestions probably it would have been better served to do something. They were setting her up to fail as a character just to begin with, because you knew at the end of the day, of all the different plots in the show, that's the one people were naturally going to care the least about.
Right.
I mean, the Princess Leia stuff I agree, that was handled well. It was interesting. They picked the right actress to play Leia, because you absolutely can.
And I've heard people complain about that actress. I was like, I thought she was adorable. I thought she did a terrific job. Other than the fact that she wasn't the most athletic, like when she was running away from the kidnappers, and that kidnapping scene in that episode.
Yeah, that was bad.
That wasn't good.
No.
There were definitely times when you like in some of the action pieces, like where you were like, okay, they're definitely working on a TV budget, and they could have redistributed some of the funds for a different sequence here.
Like the de-aging of Hayden Christensen.
Yeah.
But
seriously.
But even though that scene is still good, regardless of whether they did the de-aging or not. But it would not have hurt. I mean, it's not like you needed to do much because you didn't have that many good close-ups of his face.
Right.
But I thought the Leia stuff was good. I actually liked the Leia and Obi-Wan interaction. I know a lot of people try to say, oh my God, it doesn't make any sense. It breaks canon. Well, it doesn't have to break. See, there are some things that are so blatantly obvious that break canon, yes. And there are other things that's like, well, we're used to it being this way because this is the way we understood it. And it's hard for us, maybe because we don't want to, like to move off of it.
Right.
Just because she's, first of all, when she sends that message to Obi-Wan that she sticks an R2, it's not like that was the original plan.
Right.
She had to, I mean, she may have had, I mean, this may not have been completely on the fly. She may have already had a contingency, what if. But, Vader was not supposed to be boarding her ship, and she didn't have to, the plan wasn't to dump these plans on R2-D2 and send them to find Obi-Wan Kenobi. The plan was she was going to get Obi-Wan Kenobi. So, which if that wasn't clear in the original movie, it certainly was clear in Rogue One. That Bell Organa was sending her to tell Obi-Wan this was the time to come back.
Right. She was working as an emissary, essentially. Yeah.
So number one, she was being very diplomatic, which was her role to begin with.
Right.
As far as she knows, even though we get some nice moments which were peppered in throughout the series, which I liked, having when Obi-Wan is talking about as generically as he can about her parents. Mm-hmm. That it was nice because. And I think it was really nice because obviously you would think he would just focus in on Anakin, but the fact that obviously losing Padme and the way it all went down obviously had a big impact on him too. So I like those, and Ewan McGregor was really good in both of the major scenes when he's talking essentially about Padme too.
Right, like when he was in episode 3 when they're on the back of the guy's pickup truck.
Yeah, the
weird alien voiced by Zach Braff.
Yeah,
that was weird. But yeah, when they're doing the whole thing, he calls her by the wrong name. But yeah, I really dug that scene. I liked when he was. I love the part where he was actually thinking about his past when when the Jedi took him.
Oh yeah.
And the fact that he mentioned, I think I had a brother. I was like, wow, they actually went down that. No.
Hey, the bloodline can still continue.
Yeah.
And obviously some people picked up on that's at the very least is a nice little throwback to the Return of the Jedi novelization.
That's where my head went.
Yes, yeah. In which Owen was originally before they changed it. Before they changed it in the prequels. Owen was Obi-Wan's brother, so that's why it was kind of a lot of people did pick up on that. But the Leia stuff works. Of course she's gonna reference Bail Organa because as far as she knows, the real reason Obi-Wan Kenobi ever came out, has any connection and certainly came to help her now. And now we have this we know this stuff happened, was because of the friendship with her father.
Mm-hmm.
So of course she's going to play up that connection. And plus, even in this episode, Obi-Wan saying to her, well, basically kind of like his kiddie version of, bury your feelings deep, Luke, and things like that, because they're basically saying, hey, no one can really know that we know each other because it can hurt you and it can hurt me. And so it's kind of like referencing that when she's making that recording, and just the fact that, she's doing what she's doing her father's bidding, essentially.
Yeah.
She's so that does not necessarily break canon. And plus it gives you a nice logical reason, which there was none before, why she would name her kid Ben. It makes sense that she would name him possibly after Obi-Wan Kenobi, because on the surface it's like, well, Luke, if he had a kid, that would make sense. But why? And it's like, no, but now we understand that Leia had her own little, relationship with Obi-Wan that, an formative part of in her life. So that was.
And when Luke opens the door and says, "I'm here with Ben Kenobi,"
right,
she reacts the way she does.
Yes, that's the part that people conveniently want to ignore when they're talking about the hologram recording. It's like, she seems to have no knowledge of who Obi-Wan Kenobi is, but yet, even though we know it was probably planned this way, but the point was when Luke comes in and says, "I'm here with Ben Kenobi," like she just freaks out. Ben Kenobi, where?
Right.
So that is your out right there. So if somebody was using that as when they were prepping this and writing this to try to justify, it's like, you give them credit for that, because that's perfectly plausible, because she has a visceral, emotional reaction when he says that I'm here with Ben Kenobi. I think
just see, it's just a wonderful little bonding story between the two of them, and how they shape each other, and how he helps inspire her, and how she kind of awakens something in him and lights that fire at him when he needs it the most. And just before I forget, like, just jumping back to the thing where he mentions his brother, my head, as soon as he says that, I'm thinking about the Return of the Jedi novelization. Like you said, my wife, she was watching it, and she was thinking that there's something in Leia's face when he says that, where my wife thinks Leia is thinking, I have a brother too out there. And just something like that like kind of knowledge, that intuition that goes to Return of the Jedi when Luke is talking to her on Endor, and when he says that they're family, and she goes, I've always known.
Yeah, that's actually that. I did not pick up on that, but I think that's a good pickup. I think that is another thing where, at least subtly, whether it's intended or not, it may very well have been, but either way, subtly, yeah, that works perfectly. I mean, that's perfectly. So there are some things that they did, especially when you get to episode 6. Episode 6, they did a lot. Like, one of the reasons that I didn't like the deconstruction completely of Obi-Wan is because, to me, if you go back, in a way, the line that defines Obi-Wan to me the most is the "I will do what I must." And even though, which is ironic, because Qui-Gon actually said it first, but Obi-Wan, it tells you what good a student Obi-Wan was, because that's what Qui-Gon says when Obi-Wan says, "Don't defy the council, not again, master." It's like, I will do what I must, Obi-Wan. But that, to me, defines who Obi-Wan is, that he's all about responsibility. He's about doing what's right. Doesn't matter whether he wants to do it. Doesn't matter whether he likes it or not. He just has to do it. That, which is why he's almost like your prototypical what a Jedi should be. So I didn't like that, the idea that, he would be like running away from everything. So when they give us that line in episode 6, which really I did not expect, I certainly did not expect the fight to begin that way, with him saying that, like, I will do what I must. And of course, giving us the classic Obi-Wan Kenobi pose. That was really awesome. That was really kind of like, that kind of pumped me up a lot when they did that. And then, obviously the force push of Vader into the rock, and then when he did what Vader's going to end up doing to Luke on Bespin, and just throwing everything but the kitchen sink at him, but the rocks, that was great. And how
Vader was like, that's a pretty good move. I gotta remember that. I gotta learn that and keep it in my back pocket.
I am the master now. I am the master now. I remember this move. But yeah, and just the fact that smart enough to be going for the chest plate. That was. And with the hilt, that was really cool. And yeah, it all of that was really, really good. And and like we talked about in the preview episode, we knew that the helmet was going to get slashed. You almost had to. And I don't care that it happened in Rebels. That's animated anyway.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, and plus Rebels isn't even the same style really as Clone Wars anyway. So this is live action. It has so much more impact.
Right.
And plus
There are different levels of canonicity.
Yeah, and plus this is the quote unquote the real Anakin Skywalker from a canon perspective anyway. It's Hayden Christensen. So seeing him in the helmet and that underneath, that was really cool. And of course, everything that he says is just perfect. Right. It really is perfect. And some people said, "Oh, they're just again." And we'll talk about this in a few minutes about the people who just want to apologize for everything for Anakin and blame everything for Obi-Wan. It's like, oh, that line about I killed Anakin Skywalker was just to get Obi-Wan off the hook for quote unquote lying and New Hope. And it's like moving beyond the fact that of course Yoda made him lie. Now we know, but the point is that line was important because it essentially is true. And Obi-Wan, and that's the truth Obi-Wan has to accept anyway to heal and move on and stop feeling guilty for shit. In all honesty, he shouldn't feel guilty for anyway. The most important line, really, arguably, is the fact when you said, "I am not your failure, Obi-Wan." Because in a way, that's what haunts him even more is the fact that because Obi-Wan thinks this is all his fault. That somehow he let Anakin down, which let him down, started him down this road. And some people do believe that. A percentage of fans do believe that. But the reality is, it does add full layers and context to what he says to Luke, because that certain point of view wasn't just a garbage way of spinning a white lie. It actually is. It is absolutely a version of the truth. Just like Luke has to cling to the opposite, which is that they're still good in Vader,
right?
Because they both need to cling to different truths to achieve their destinies and be the men and the Jedi they're supposed to be. Because it's important that Obi-Wan realizes finally that, okay, Anakin's gone, Vader's left, and I don't have to. The thing that did suck about that is they still didn't give us what we should have. There should have been more trying to bring Vader back. That they still failed on. You can make the case the end of that fight was the closest we got. They should have had something, even if it was in the first fight when Obi-Wan got his ass handed to him. Mm-hmm. They should have had more of a direct line. Yes, Vader would have been able to pick up on the fact that Obi-Wan was trying to reach him. So you can still get away with it. But as some people have said, that was really, and I think you and I may have talked about it, that was the main purpose of having them fight again or meet again, was because Obi-Wan never really had that moment of trying to bring Vader back in Sith, understandably so, based on circumstance. Right. But
I'm going to get to Vader in episode 6. But going back to episode 3 a little bit, and I know I was fine with the deconstruction of Obi-Wan and knowing that where he was at the first part of this series, I kind of was expecting that the first time they would meet, he would have to get beaten down so much that he could build himself back up, and that was just part of the fact that we kind of knew in advance that the actors had trained for 2 different lightsaber fights or something like that, or to encounter something along those lines. So I really liked the staging, the presentation of Vader in episode 3, like when he comes in. And it turns into like a slasher horror movie. He's moving around like Michael Myers and Jason Voorhees, and he's just grabbing like civilians, like people just out of their homes and killing kids and everything, like torturing, all because he's trying to smoke out Obi-Wan. And I think it works, and we can allow for it because Obi-Wan just found out he's alive, and is like, as we saw, like when he's walking around like in the landscape with Leia, and he's like seeing ghost images of Anakin in the distance, like just his head is not on right, and he's not ready emotionally for this fight. So to see Vader like this, he is using the power of the fear and the encroaching darkness, and that's why the scenes are lit so darkly. The only thing you see is the light from the lightsabers, and he's just stalking him like a movie monster and everything like that. And so I liked that just because it was like, yeah, this is why everybody in the galaxy is afraid of Darth Vader. Stuff like this, stuff like the end of Rogue One. We're kind of seeing what we were told in the original trilogy. We're actually seeing that put to execution now. Should Obi-Wan have been in more control? That's debatable. That actually made me kind of think about his story and should this type of story have been told earlier in Obi-Wan's exile? Like, would it have made more sense for him to go out like in the first couple of years, like when he was living on Tatooine, like the first few years, if he had left and he had been like helping more of this like underground railroad, like the Jedi or something, and it just like maybe having seen failure after failure, that's what like caused him to just become so reclusive. I don't know, maybe. But yeah, certainly, like once he gets beaten down, once he gets almost like cooked to death, and then has to go through his own Bacta tank experience and the parallels of Obi-Wan going through that and Anakin having to live in that essentially. That was an interesting thing at the beginning of Episode 4. But then, yeah, like once you get to Episode 6, and again, we pretty much know how this is going to go, but they just, I mean, credit to Deborah Chow and the writing in that episode. Like it is very much just fan service layered on top of fan service, but it was done so well. The fight choreography, the staging, the camera work is just exciting. The lighting is incredible. Like the throwing the rocks, the plot, and everything. And yeah, definitely once Ben gets his groove back and he comes back like after like he's like Rocky saying, "Tommy, I didn't hear no bell." You know, he comes back and like, yeah, like once he starts pounding on him physically with the hilt of the lightsaber, and you're getting that sound effect of Vader like not being able to breathe from Return of the Jedi. That part was incredible. And once he slashed the helmet, like when you can actually see Hayden's face and hear Hayden's voice intermixed, going in and out like of tempo with the James Earl Jones-ified Vader voice. That was incredibly powerful for the characters, but also for the actor. And this was something that I talked about like the last time I was here. Like I was like, I kind of wanted this to be a nice redemption for Hayden Christensen, who, as I talked about, did not get a lot of love 20 years ago when the movies came out. And there's certainly been a new generation of fans that like him and see him as the definitive Anakin Skywalker, and they rally around him, and he's their boy. So to see that reward and to see him now contemporaneously playing the part, and in that moment, I was like, he's taking ownership, not just of Anakin Skywalker. He's taking ownership of the role of Darth Vader in a way that I didn't think was possible for him to do, even knowing that he's wearing the costume and he's walking a little bit faster and he's moving a little bit more. Like I was still seeing Vader, not Hayden Christensen in the costume. But when you actually see him and hear him speaking those lines, I was like, this is a really, really good, meaty thing. I was like, yeah, that was like a fist pump moment for the Hayden Christensen part of this, which I was just like, I never would have expected that. But I just thought that was incredible. And everything done with like the masterful use of the lighting, how in the beginning of that sequence, in the beginning of that monologue, he's got Obi-Wan's blue lightsaber covering his face. And he's like, "I'm not your failure. You didn't kill Anakin Skywalker. I did." And the shift to the red glow of his lightsaber. So well done. Yeah, just an amazing little finale to their storyline at that point. For now.
Yeah, well, hopefully they really, let's be honest, even if they did another season and both the characters were in it, they should never have any more interaction until the Death Star. They gave us they gave us pretty much what we needed, quote unquote, and we don't need any more. But that line about "then my friend is truly dead," yeah, that echoing the Return of the Jedi line. But I mean, again,
my father is truly
that they did a lot. They did a lot of.
Oh, and even the fact that Ben walks away calling him Darth. Yes. Because that was like the whole thing. Like, yeah, in the first one, Darth was treated like a name, not a title, right. Like, because that's the way he's referred to by Kenobi. Yeah.
Right. So, but yeah, so all that they did enough. But people, there was criticism that maybe they weren't doing their homework. Kind of like the Sam Raimi and company not watching WandaVision. but the reality is they definitely did their homework when they did the the end of this, because that's exactly what that's the moment Obi-Wan needed. He needed to. So it's kind of cool, like you said. On one level, we get peak Vader in Episode 3,
Mhm.
You got peak Obi-Wan that we probably have never actually seen. Obi-Wan like unfettered, just Obi-Wan just letting go. That in episode 6, which is cool. You have, Obi-Wan again, like as we kind of suspected, Obi-Wan getting his groove back, where he's starting to dress Jedi like again. By the time you get to the end of episode 6, and of course saving the hello there for Luke was perfect.
That was good. I thought that was going to be just like a hard cut to black, and that'd be the end of the episode. Like, I forgot. I was like, oh yeah, we do kind of need to see Qui-Gon at the end of this, so there needs to be something else. But if they had ended it at the hello there, I was like, that would have been cool.
And the thing that makes that, I was thinking about this today, the thing that makes that really cool, because some people would criticize and say, well, they've just kind of retconned Obi-Wan's whole, his whole reason for being. You kind of just figured he was like lurking, essentially watching over Luke literally every single moment of every single day for like 18, 19 years. But if you put it in this perspective, it makes even more sense.
Yeah.
Especially because what Anakin could never do of anything was let go. Anakin was obsessive. Anakin couldn't let go, and he helped. And like the main reason Padme died in childbirth was because Anakin was obsessing because of Padme dying in childbirth.
Right.
It was a self-fulfilling prophecy. So because of all the events of everything that happened in this series, it is very possible Obi-Wan realized, well, me hovering over this child and being so close actually puts him at more risk than if I just let him be.
Yeah.
So it shows the difference between another difference between Obi-Wan and Anakin. It also shows that Obi-Wan is capable of growing and moving beyond, and maybe acknowledging either he was like, even when he's talking to Owen, but he essentially is acknowledging that he's wrong and because Owen's right, that means by de facto to a certain extent that Obi-Wan and his view on Luke was wrong. Or what should happen with Luke. So that shows that, again, it's in a nutshell, very nicely written, the difference between how Anakin Vader just can't let go of anything, which goes back to the Phantom Menace. Your thoughts dwell on your mother.
Right.
That everything about Anakin was about that he couldn't let go of things. So that was, which is when we talk about the, and I want to do this briefly, the Obi-Wan haters or the Anakin apologists, because I saw people during the sparring session say, we could have got that message across to Anakin nicer. And it's like, have you not been watching the relationship between Obi-Wan and Anakin enough to figure out, well, actually, it's not even the relationship between the two. Have you not figured out that Anakin is extremely arrogant and thinks he knows everything and can do everything? So, and Obi-Wan has tried multiple times to just tell him things, but he's so dismissive, it doesn't matter. So because of who Anakin is, the only way you can get a point across is basically you have to show him that he's not as hot shit as he thinks that he is. You have to humble him or have him humble himself, and that's when something will resonate inside of him, and maybe he'll learn the lesson. So the idea
like in a weird sort of reversal, is kind of what the Emperor does at the very last scene. Right. When Palpatine says when Vader is basically like, he's like, I will scour the universe for this guy, and the Emperor is essentially like, dude, your head. It's like, no, it's like, you need to put this behind. It's like, you need to focus on just doing what I tell you to do, and kind of has to like tell him to like pull his head out of his butt and everything like that, because he's just like, you're too obsessed with this and it's clouding your judgment. But the classic understated Emperor line, you seem agitated, Lord Vader. or vice versa, Lord Vader, you seem agitated. It's like, no, I am pissed. Yes. You think these helmets grow on trees? Yeah. But it's like, yeah, I mean, it's like, that's the only way. Oh, the idea that if Obi-Wan just hugged Anakin more and gave him a couple of extra juice boxes, that things would have turned out all right. Gets really frustrating, because this is where the Rocky thing was in my brain. And you made a perfect, and you segued to it nicely before. Nobody in the world blames Rocky for Tommy Gunn turning out the way Tommy Gunn did. Everybody just says Tommy Gunn was a bad seed and Rocky did the best that he could, even though Rocky did have really selfish motives for training Tommy Gunn. It's not like it would, but people still completely absolve him of all responsibility. They say, well, he was a bad seed. But when it comes to Anakin, everybody wants to apologize and say, oh, it's either all Obi-Wan's fault, or if he just had a more experienced master, or if Obi-Wan was just nicer to him. No, Anakin was the problem.
every Force sensitive person in Episode 1, including Qui-Gon, knew there were problems with him. Qui-Gon was just the only one who wouldn't say he was dangerous. Wrong that he was, but everybody else picked up on stuff with him. It was Anakin. He had these flaws he couldn't overcome. It wasn't anybody else's fault. Could Qui-Gon have maybe reined him in a little bit? Maybe. Could a more experienced master have done a better job? Maybe. Could the older Obi-Wan have done a better job? Sure. Doesn't mean the outcome was going to be different, and it doesn't mean it's their fault. So it just gets. I mean, like I said, people just casually excuse Rocky, and just imagine if Rocky was on Mickey's deathbed, Rocky was sat with, Rock, you promised me you got to train the kid, right? Just imagine that. People would have said, oh man, of course it's not Rocky's fault. He was doing it for Mickey. Well, that's what happened to Obi-Wan. He got stuck with a lemon, and someone he never would have picked because he knew they were a bad match. But he did the best he could, and I don't think he really did a bad job. The
Jedi Council gave the problem child to the least experienced Jedi master.
That is true. That is true too. That would have been. See, that's the interesting thing too, which also I think shows some of the selfishness for Qui-Gon. The fact that he put this burden on Obi-Wan, not necessarily because you'd like to think he believed in Obi-Wan, that Obi-Wan would do a good job. And I think Obi-Wan did do a good job. If you see the Clone Wars animated show, there's no reason to say that he didn't. Yeah. But he didn't do that only for that reason. He did it because he didn't think the council was going to let anybody else train him. So if he guilts Obi-Wan on his deathbed, he knows Obi-Wan will do it.
Master, maybe Kiadi Mundi can do this? It's like, no, screw that cone-headed bastard. That guy owes me money. You got to do this.
He keeps telling me my thoughts dwell on my mother. Him. But yeah, I mean, and Vader, Vader does kind of remind me of Loki. He reminds me of Loki, especially when in the Loki series when Mobius says, I think about the glorious purpose thing. For like a guy with glorious purpose, you sure lose a lot. Vader loses a whole lot, which is good because that's that. But it certainly was satisfying to see kind of quote unquote peak Vader get his ass handed to him.
Sure.
I still was disappointed that Obi-Wan didn't take off the one arm that he didn't take off the first time. I was really hoping for that, just to complete the set. Just to complete the set. Yeah, I mean, that would have been really, really cool. I mean, you can't complain about what we got, but but they did so. And then the Qui-Gon stuff at the end. It's like, well, that could have been better. We knew we were going to get to see him. They were kind of doing the Chekhov's gun or whatever with him, and for like the first 3 episodes, mentioning him all the time. So it's like, well, you have to use Qui-Gon by the third act.
Yeah, but I
wanted something deeper. I wanted him to be saying. I mean, he did. I mean, we know kind of what he means, that Obi-Wan was in the wrong mindset, and that's the reason why he couldn't really. That he wasn't ready to see Qui-Gon then. But I kind of want. I mean, maybe this is stuff they would say, but they're going to do another story. Or when there's more conversation between Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon. But if this is like the only moment we ever see of Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon together, I would have liked Qui-Gon to at least say something more meaningful. Clearly now he doesn't have to say anything to let Obi-Wan off the hook, because Obi-Wan is off the hook. Vader essentially did that.
I was kind of expecting it like the moment like when Obi-Wan is buried, when he's underneath all of that rubble.
Yes.
Like that's the point where he hears,
get up, you son of a bitch.
I was going to say we're going back to Rocky 5 again. He's like, get up, you son of a bitch. Because Qui-Gon loves you.
I think most people in the world watching thought that was going to be the moment.
Yeah.
But it was cool, and it was good for Obi-Wan as a character and what we think of Obi-Wan, that Obi-Wan ultimately didn't need help. He needed inspiration in his own head, but he didn't need any. I don't need no Force Ghost showing up. But that was, that was. So the Reva part in episode 6 just took away.
Because she was the one new character. She was the one person whose fate was kind of uncertain. I mean, she could have died in that thing, okay, all right. So here's the issue that I had is because Luke needed to be far enough away from the dangers that he didn't know there's some Sith
Right.
lady with a red lightsaber coming after me, because that probably would have been something he talked to Obi-Wan about later on in life. That whole thing, like they couldn't break in. He had to think that maybe it was Tusken Raiders or something like that. Because of that, Luke was just by necessity. Luke had to be very passive and almost the damsel in distress in the story.
Right.
Whereas we got to see Leia stepping out and becoming this kind of badass little hero on her own. It would have been cool if we had gotten a parallel between them. If we had seen that from Leia, and we also get to see, 10 years old, Luke he's got some ingenuity to him. Maybe like she's sneaking around or something. He hot wires their land speeder and runs her over or something, and drives off and everything, and like uses his pilot skills, something like that, to kind of like save his own butt. Anything like that, like to kind of give Luke a little bit more action and ownership for himself, agency. Sorry, I couldn't think of the word. I would have preferred that, but unfortunately, the constraints of continuity, they kind of handcuffed them.
And I agree with that. I've seen some of that criticism, and I think it's fair that, again, for whatever reason or reasons you want to analyze and say why you think they did that, either way, it was, once again, they could have elevated Leia without kind of like downgrading Luke or making him look like this bumbling, not so much bumbling, but kind of making him look like a complete, like you said, like the damsel in distress character in that. And still, it still doesn't sit right on some levels. That again, that it was like, oh, technically the only reason why everything works out the way it does is just because Reva chooses not to kill Luke. Not because, so theoretically Obi-Wan's main purpose could have gone straight down the toilet just because of, which wasn't all his fault, even though he wouldn't be happy with Bail Organa. It's like, I told you I should have not left that planet. But I do understand why that still bothers people. I'm glad they did it in a way that Luke doesn't really see enough, where it really screws up anything that the innocence that we have. Because when you think about it, when Luke first sees the lightsaber in episode 4, that's the first time we see a lightsaber in the history of Star Wars. So that's kind of an important introduction for all of us. So if he saw like a Sith lightsaber, even if he didn't completely understand and they, like you, I think you and I talked about, they could have tried to work around it if they tried to do kind of like what happened with Grogu, where obviously somebody did something to his memories and suppressed his memories. Mm-hmm. That if they had done, they could have gone down that route, which of course would have been ultimately almost like symmetry with Luke trying to uncover and wake up Grogu's memories, not realizing he had some of his own never hidden. Mm-hmm. That they could have done that if they needed to. They have Obi-Wan maybe do that with Owen being okay with it, saying, because Luke was freaking out or he was in such pain or in fear. It's like, I don't want him living in fear like this. That they could have done it. I'm glad they did it this way because it's just clean. It's just really clean.
This kind of takes away from the iconography of Star Wars, the whole lightsaber concept of it. But it could have been that her lightsaber was destroyed by Vader in their fight, and she goes to Tatooine with just a knife or a blaster. Like she didn't need the lightsaber to try and kill this kid. She could have had any weapon. Yeah. But then it's like, there is something to the signature silhouette of like this woman with a lightsaber stalking him. But I've sensed that we're sort of running down. So just like a few other things that I was thinking of. I liked seeing Obi-Wan in different hues and different colors. I like that his robes were kind of different. He was even sporting some blue. I still wish to God, I was like, okay, you're going undercover to rescue this child on this planet full of like smugglers and criminals and bounty hunters. It's really important that you don't announce yourself as a Jedi. Maybe change clothes. maybe have Obi-Wan like dress like in like a pilot suit or something like that, or dress like Han Solo or something. Just once, like have him step out and wear something other than these like nondescript brown robes. I would have liked that. The other thing I thought of was when he's rescuing her from the Inquisitor fortress underwater. I know that it has a name from the video game. I just can't think of it. But when she's in the chamber and he's turning off the lights to like take out the stormtroopers. Okay. In The Force Awakens, Finn tells Rey that stormtrooper masks don't filter out toxins or poisons or something like that, because they're going to try and knock them out with gas. And then in this Obi-Wan episode, we see that they don't have infrared vision either, because they don't see Obi-Wan sneaking around in the dark until he kills them with the lightsabers. Why do stormtroopers wear those helmets if they don't have any infrared vision or breathing apparatus? Like, that's a stupid question because it's Star Wars. Of course they're wearing helmets, but it's like, shouldn't they have built in some tactical advantage to those things?
Well, it seems to have a little advantage. It did seem to have a little bit of impact for lightsaber deflection, at least a little bit, because it's not like they got killed with the first swing. It took like a couple of swings for Obi-Wan. But the point you're raising, that goes back to the original Star Wars. It's like, what's the point of wearing the armor if it doesn't even stop a blaster from getting through it?
Yeah.
It's just to make you a mindless lemming, is what it on the surface.
Right.
That you're all faceless, not mindless, which is arguable. But you're faceless.
Yeah.
You are faceless.
Oh, and then the beginning of Episode 6, when the Star Destroyer is chasing their craft, and the lasers are going, like, I know everybody's making the joke that the Star Destroyers are as bad at aiming as stormtroopers. Like, they can't hit anything for shit. It's just that looks bad. I didn't like just how dumb it was. They're chasing, like, send out some TIE fighters. Also, if every ship can outrace a Star Destroyer, no, that's something that the Millennium Falcon should be able to do, because the Millennium Falcon is goddamn special. Not every junky life raft carrying fugitives and refugees should be able to do that. So I was disappointed that and some of the look, I just thought that was kind of cheap and poorly choreographed. But that was my only real complaint with Episode 6 as far as that goes.
Yes, it ended well, and overall, again, there's still some flaws, but the Vader Obi-Wan stuff was so good.
Yeah,
that
there was very good stuff throughout in every episode. There was stuff that was kind of in every episode, but overall, going into this show, I was like, the big question is, can this show justify its own existence? Knowing that it's just filler, that it's not necessary, it's an inessential story. At the end of it, will it make a difference that they've actually made this show? And I feel like because of how strong that last episode is, it just barely justifies its own existence and makes the show worth making at all. But I still think it would have been a better 2-hour movie than a 6-hour series.
I agree. I think it still would have been a better movie. I think, and I think it would have been very successful if they had done that as a movie.
Oh, sure, yeah. If they trimmed the fat and took the best elements of this and just made it a tighter story, I think it would have been huge.
And one thing I thought of is like, hey, if you were gonna do a second season, why can't we have that? The Maul Vader confrontation that we've never actually had in real canon on film. Yeah, actually, because Maul at this point is still around. Yeah. So why that would be something people would love that. People would love to have it, and it's not like you can't justify their paths crossing because of his all his underworld connections. Right. People would love to, especially if it was Hayden. Come on, if it was Hayden Christensen and Ray Park. I mean, come on, people would love that. They would love that. So that that would be a complete. And then in a way, it would be, well, you better come up with something really interesting for Obi-Wan to do, or else if it's going to be in the same show, or else everyone's going to be interested in the Vader Maul stuff. But,
that's almost worth doing a different series. Yeah. Not even making that an Obi-Wan show.
Yeah, they could either do a Maul show or do a Vader show. I mean, they could do that. They could do that easily, and there would be interest in that. Yeah. All right, so you want to delve into your cool story?
Yeah. I just wanted to mention, as far as between the times that we've talked, I took a little vacation with the family. We went back to my home stomping grounds in Illinois, and early on in June, the Joliet, Illinois. Joliet's public library, Joliet, famous for, if anybody has seen the Blues Brothers, Joliet Jake gets out of jail. That prison is still there. You can drive by it. We actually did
love
drive
that
by.
movie. My mom
it's
and I were
fantastic.
just talking about that movie yesterday. Actually.
It's one of my top 5 all-time
Yeah,
favorite
it's
movies.
great movie.
I love the Blues Brothers. But yeah, Joliet Public Library put out something called Star Wars Day. I think it's an annual event, and it's just kind of a fan event celebrating just kind of like the thing they kind of block off like a street. They've got a little stage with music. They have a lot of vendors, street trucks, like food trucks, things like that. Inside the library, they did have kind of like mini celebrity signings. It was a very small function. There was only like 3 or 4 people, and like no big like name actors or anything from the movies. But they included the artist Dave Dorman, who any fans of Dark Horse comics from the '90s will recognize. He was the cover artist for Star Wars Dark Empire, all of those series, a lot of the other Star Wars comics in the '90s, X-Wing Rogue Squadron, one of my favorite comics. And so he was there signing autographs. And also the author, John Jackson Miller, who wrote the novel Kenobi, which was a story in the old canon, the old expanded universe canon, about what Obi-Wan Kenobi did like the day he arrives on Tatooine with baby Luke, and how he kind of settles in with this little village, trying to keep a low profile while still getting drawn into, their local politics and the local elements of the settlers and the Sand People. Really cool book, really cool, fun little story. As you said, maybe they could mine elements of that if they do another season of Obi-Wan. But yeah, then the big thing is like the photo ops. They have like a whole parade, and seriously, they had 100 cosplayers there dressed in Star Wars gear, from stormtroopers, clone troopers. I mentioned there was a General Grievous, which was just a guy behind a cape working the arms and legs like marionettes, like puppets. Lots of Darth Vaders, lots of Darth Mauls, lots of Kylo Rens, tons of Mandalorian representation. Mandalorians, Bo-Katans, Grogu's, lots of characters from Rebels like Sabine, Ahsoka. There was some Rey, one large 7-foot tall Chewbacca, lots of Tusken Raiders, lots of Jawas, lots of different. The Gorax monster from the Ewok adventure, a couple of representative like characters from the video games who I recognize them, but I don't even know their names because I haven't played enough of the games. But yeah, me and my son got pictures with all of those, and he was very excited. He was appropriately scared by some of the more monstrous looking ones, but he knew how to flirt and smile with the Princess Leia's and the Reys, so good on him. I mean,
you have taught him well.
Exactly. I was like, lean in closer. But yeah, it was just a cool little event. So yeah, if you happen to be around there, if your town does something like that or puts on an event like that, it was very cool to see a lot of kids involved, a lot of kids cosplaying, and the younger generation getting involved. And again, showing that like these things are generational. What were the little kids dressed in? They were dressed as the cartoons from Clone Wars and Rebels and like the Lego specials and stuff like that. Like they're gravitating towards the new characters. That's what they're getting. So.
Yes, those pictures were very cool. Looks like it was a fun time for all.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I could not get a good deal on the Jawas. I tried to sell him off, but
and they have a tribe to feed after all.
Yeah.
And that was kind of a nice touch, actually, having in a way the most personal Jawa that we've seen so far. getting an inkling into the way Jawas actually think more. It's like that was kind of that was one of the best parts, like of episode / chapter 1. Is like, if you're going to steal my things and sell them back to me, could you at least claim them first as a courtesy?
Now I have to imagine that's the same Jawa that was fooling around with Pelimato, the starship mechanic from.
Yes,
that's got to be the same.
Probably,
the same Jawa.
It probably is. That would be funny. If there is a season 2, we need to see the Jawa. More Jawa. Just like they were real fast at putting out that Lola toy, weren't they?
Oh, yeah.
Even before I went into the holster. People.
So
yeah. Overall, it wasn't as good as I hoped, but it certainly rebounded from where it seemed like it was heading at one point.
Yeah. It was uneven, but it was entertaining. Again, considering I went into the show thinking it had a low ceiling, it could only get so good. it got pretty close to that, and the best parts of it were really, really, really good. So yeah.
Yep. All right, Ryan, tell people where they can listen to you.
You can hear me over on the Fire and Water Podcast Network. Once upon a time, I had my own Star Wars podcast called Give Me Those Star Wars. I haven't done anything with that in a long time. It's much easier and much more fulfilling to just come on other people's shows to talk about Star Wars on their dime. But what you can hear me keeping current with is Cheers Cast, which is my index show of my favorite TV show of all time, the 1980s and 90s NBC comedy Cheers. So.
Cool. So for us, LanternCast@gmail.com. The website is LanternCast.com. You can follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, #GeoCast to track us down there. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Stitcher. Please leave us a positive review on all platforms you listen to us on. Last but not least, if you'd like to leave us a voicemail or a text, 708-LANTERN is that number. If you're still looking for our Discord link, you can just email us at LanternCast@gmail.com. And just in case anybody didn't listen to our preview episode, because we did talk about spoilers, and anybody wants to see how close we were in our predictions, which I think for the most part we were pretty spot on for the most part. Episode 479 was the preview episode of this, which bookends this. When you think about it, I think we did get most of everything a consequence that we kind of called for. I mean, we had, the Emperor, we knew Qui-Gon was a given. Yeah, I think the only thing they fooled us with before we go, the only thing they fooled us on a little bit, but I think it worked out, is instead of Owen and Ben's relationship getting worse, it kind of got better. But they do it in a context which it kind of makes it work a little bit. I think we did pretty well. I think projecting or predicting what we thought it was going to turn out.
Yeah.
Cool. So I guess next time you and I reconvene will probably be for Halloween. I'm guessing, right? Probably for Halloween ends.
Probably.
That should be joyous. So I can't believe we didn't get a trailer. I thought for sure that trailer was going to be on the black phone. They are waiting a long ass time to put out a teaser trailer for this, but well. But they have other horror movies coming out soon, so I'm sure it'll be on some A24 or Blumhouse movie. But that being said, good night, everybody.
Good night.